All right, welcome back to another X106 podcast. This is Luke Peterson and Trevor Mader here today for another week of some sports news. So let's jump in first, Trevor, with some NFL stuff. Probably the biggest story other than the Super Bowl is the whole Josh McDaniels fiasco here.
Yeah, this is great, isn't it?
Man,
this whole situation. It's I guess it's one way for Bob Kraft to kind of stick it to the Colts after Deflategate. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the situation, I'll fill you in real quick. Patriots offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels had been linked to the Colts job for quite some time. He had apparently accepted the job, but even gone as far as hiring assistants for the job, and there was never anything signed. And in the 11th hour, he said, "No, I'm not feeling this." So this is an ongoing saga that'll be really interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, my favorite was how I think it was the Colts GM said the rivalry's back on,
and they're like 2-7 in the last 10 meetings or something like that.
But I mean that was the mid 2000s of the NFL was the rivalry of the Patriots and the Colts when it was Manning Brady. Every year because they always won the division they played. So it was like every year we got the Manning Bowl. But yeah, it's just crazy because I was high on that hiring if they would have got him because I said this is a guy that I think can help turn that offense around finally because they've been having issues really ever since Tony Dungy retired. But
yeah,
and then with Luck, Arians was that kryptonite that once they left they just fell apart. So we'll see what happens. But man, who do you think they're going to go after now?
Everything I've read kind of points towards either Frank Reich, the offensive coordinator from the Eagles, or Dave Toub, the special teams coordinator for the Chiefs. And Toub is probably the best special teams coordinator in the NFL, and we've seen special teams coordinators have success as head coaches before. You look at John Harbaugh. I tend to think they'll go Frank Reich. Reich's kind of bounced around a lot from different offensive coordinator positions. I don't really understand why. He was with the Chargers. He was with the Eagles. He was a quarterbacks coach for the Colts, actually, back a couple under the Tony Dungy years. So that kind of sounds like it might be the route they go. They want an offensive-minded guy, I think, to help rebuild that offense because that might be the worst-built roster in the NFL.
That is true because it's, you go look at it, you take away – because now they're cutting Vontae Davis. So you have Andrew Luck.
T.Y. Hilton.
And T.Y. Hilton. You have Jack Doyle. And other than that, you have Adam Vinatieri.
Yeah, who's like 45. You have a 35-year-old Frank Gore. I mean,
it's like Frank Gore is doing stuff at 35 that I've never thought I'd see a running back do, but he's still 35. And, how much more can he do this? And he can't carry this offense. Jacoby Brissett is a solid backup. He's now, I think, once Luck comes back, he'll establish himself with the Derek Andersons. If Nick Foles stay with the Eagles, Nick Foles. Chase Daniel of the guys that if your starter goes out for much of the season, you're going to be in pretty good shape, especially there's those couple of stretches against the division. You can feel pretty safe, even if he's not exactly like with Cam. Derek Anderson is not a big mobile quarterback. He's more of your traditional pocket quarterback. But
well, look at Matt Moore with the Dolphins last year. I mean, Tannehill goes down, and it wasn't an upgrade, but it wasn't a big downgrade, really. It was able to get them into the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And I think what do you think went into McDaniel's decision? And I've heard a lot of different contradicting things.
The day of the Super Bowl, there was a lot of rumors flying around that it was going to be Brady and Belichick's last game, which they're both saying that it's not. But I wonder if that was a thing too, even if it's not this year or even next year, if kind of like back in college football with Texas and Will Muschamp were like, hey, if you stay, you will be the next in line to replace Belichick because then they can keep basically the Patriot dynasty pretty much going if Belichick decides to retire.
And in doing so, now that's almost the only move for Josh McDaniels because he's alienated 31 of the 32 NFL owners now. And outside of the Patriots job, he'll probably never get another head coaching opportunity. Again, it's weird when you look at the careers of Belichick and McDaniels, they're kind of parallel. Belichick was a young, brilliant assistant coach, became a head coach. Maybe he wasn't ready, had some bad teams, got fired, came back, reestablished himself as a good assistant coach, then became a head coach again.
Makes you wonder, though, man, how does that Browns team do if they don't announce they're moving? Because that was, he was building a decent Browns team, and then the crazy part is you go back and look at how built that team was in terms of either assistants or just like ball boys. Jim Schwartz, Nick Saban, Kurt Ferentz, Thomas Dimitroff, Scott Pioli was on there too. It's incredible. But yeah, actually, I was looking on ESPN before we did this, and apparently the agent for McDaniels, Bob Lamont, has terminated his relationship with McDaniels, so he's done.
Because I read him and Chris Ballard, the GM of the Colts, they share an agent.
Oh yeah.
So it was kind of a catch-22 there. Lamont was stuck in the middle as far as his one client basically left his other client hung out to dry. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, where are you at on it? I mean, I know a lot of people are very furious with McDaniels. I tend to lean towards I don't really have a big problem with it. I'm not saying it's the move I would go with, but there was never a contract signed, and maybe the Colts were just kind of a little premature and kind of over-expected.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's kind of where I am, too. It's like I don't like it on McDaniel's standpoint, but the Colts also kind of, shot the gun a little too much. I mean, we even sort of saw this going back to the parallels with Belichick. We saw, before he took the Patriots job, he was the Jets coach
for 32 minutes.
Yep. So he took the Jets job, and then he was like, no, I'm gonna not. And then they had to give a draft pick up to the Jets because of it when he went to New England. But yeah, that's definitely a crazy one. I don't necessarily like it on either side. I think the Colts kind of put too many eggs in the basket and expected it, and then there was not a contract signed. Just like the Alex Smith trade, it's been agreed to, but at some point in the next month, if either team decides, I don't want this trade anymore, they can go and cancel it, and all this stuff never happened.
What's funny is the backlash this has received has been pretty substantial, but how often does this happen in college basketball? Dana Altman did it. He left
he left Creighton for
Arkansas and then came back. There was another one that just slipped my mind. Billy Donovan. I mean, he left he left Florida for the Magic for 3 days, then had a change of heart. Chris Beard was at Arkansas Little Rock, took the UNLV job, and then he had been an assistant at Texas Tech. That job opened up, and he jumped within the span of a month from Arkansas Little Rock to UNLV to Texas Tech. So this is something that isn't. It's maybe more. It's not even uncommon in professional football because we've seen with Belichick, but it's something that's maybe a little bit more uncommon in professional football. But it's something that happens a lot in college football and definitely in college basketball.
Yeah. So maybe this is the start of we'll see this a little more where they don't announce it until a contract is signed. Some maybe won't see this again, or and if it does happen, we might see times when a guy like I heard Leslie Frazier is going to get some consideration too for the Colts job, which is, in my opinion, an awful decision.
Where's he even at now? Is he with the Titans? I can't even remember where he's at. I'll look it up real quick. But
I just think that Leslie was actually I think it might be the Bills.
He is with the Bills. I knew he was the defense coordinator for the Bills.
And as a coordinator, he's fine. He was the replacement for Mike Tomlin when he left Minnesota for the Steelers head coach job. But he was not a good head coach at Minnesota.
Well, and there's guys that are like that. I mean, Rex Ryan, I think, is a really, really good coordinator.
North Turner. Ken Wisenhunt. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Those guys are just built to be coordinators, and there's guys that I think make the transition well. I think Josh McDaniels has the tools to be a really successful head coach. I think last time, I think he was kind of young, and obviously he was young. He was 33, 34, something like that.
Yeah, he learned from his mistakes, I think, too. We'll see. That's kind of like, Lane Kiffin had to kind of do stuff too. Those two remind me a lot of each other. They're both kind of, they're just kind of out there. They're a little cocky, but they're good at their jobs. They had to learn because they went to a head coaching place and didn't do well, and part of it was their fault too. So.
Yeah, and with Lane Kiffin, I don't think Lane Kiffin was ready. I mean, he's 41 years old, and at that time he's been the head coach of the Raiders, head coach at Tennessee, and a head coach at USC, and the offensive coordinator at Alabama. And you look where he was at with Florida Atlantic this year. I mean, they put on an entertaining brand of football. He's kind of rebirthed himself, really, as far as his personality and people's opinion on him. And maybe Josh McDaniels can do the same thing in time. It's tough to say. I think Josh McDaniels is a really brilliant mind, and I think him learning from Belichick, over the last couple of years on what he did wrong will help him in the future, assuming it's in New England. I mean, I would think that would be the only reason he wouldn't have taken the Indianapolis job. And I've read reports that Belichick and Kraft had promised McDaniels more of an insight on kind of the stuff that Belichick does as a head coach, whether it's dealing with salary cap issues and more of an emphasis on drafts, on selecting players and stuff for the draft. And maybe that's all kind of grooming him for that position. I mean, the Rams kind of did the same thing with Mike Martz.
Yeah, so
I mean,
they're probably just doing that. I mean, I would set it up too because because unless there's just a huge fall off from Belichick, the chances are he's going to retire when he wants to. Mm-hmm. Probably a situation like where unless things turn south, he's going to go out on top. Whether that's a Super Bowl, even if they lose a Super Bowl, he's still going to go out pretty high. And
it makes the transition of power a lot smoother. I know this is kind of minor compared to the New England Patriots, but you look at even what happened here at Northwest. Adam Dorr leaves for Abilene Christian, and they felt the best thing they could do is keep the hire in-house. They elevate Rich Ryan. Things really haven't missed a beat a ton. I know this year they didn't get the national championship they probably wanted, but still a winning season, ranked number one most of the season. It was a pretty smooth transition, and I think that's the way the Patriots are trying to go too. And I think had Kirby Smart not left for Georgia, I think we would have seen that at Alabama as well. And who knows if we'll still see that down the road with Alabama and somebody. So that'll be really interesting. I would be willing to bet money that Josh McDaniels will be the head coach of the New England Patriots in the next 5 years.
Yeah, the only way I really see him leaving is if another one of these front office Belichick proteges goes and gets a job at a team like a Colts or something like that, and they're like, hey, well, it's like Belichick looks like he's another few more years. Here, you can go now. We'll give you the exact same thing like you have here in New England, like what Belichick has, and then we can see. But other news that we got actually today is Jimmy Garoppolo is getting a record deal. So he is getting a 5-year, $137.5 million, which is what is being reported right now, which is the largest.
It's going to be $27.5 million this year, I think I read.
Yeah. So it's just $500,000 more than Stafford's. So this is what we're going to see now, and we mentioned it too last week with Kirk Cousins, how Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers and Carson Wentz, like they're all licking their chops, and now this helps it even more because Garoppolo's getting that on a 5-game run with
the Niners.
7-game with the Niners, and then a couple with the Patriots when Brady was out for Deflategate. So he's getting paid a lot of money for a small sample size, and we'll see how it goes.
And I think he's super talented. I think Jimmy Garoppolo, has a shot at being NFL MVP this year.
I agree.
But also, like you said, the small sample size, there's guys that look great for half a season. Case Keenum.
Yeah.
I mean, Case Keenum had a legit argument to be NFL MVP this year. But you take Case Keenum out of that situation in Minnesota and put him in Cleveland or Chicago.
Or that Niners roster.
Or that Niners roster. And I do think John Lynch is kind of building things better there. But who knows what success Keenum would have.
Yeah.
Or it's all about the situation.
I mean, he had a nice little resurgence in the playoffs, but Nick Foles, same thing. Look at that
Rams team was bad.
That 27-2 ratio, touchdown-interception ratio. That next year, he has an okay season.
He got hurt, too, that year.
Yeah. Goes to the Rams. I mean, that also, Jeff Fisher proved that he cannot coach offenses because, we had the Super Bowl MVP quarterback. We had, team in the playoffs, team in the NFC Championship game, all with his former quarterbacks.
So, yeah, it's interesting that Jimmy G got the contract he did, and it sets a precedent, like you talked about. Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers, who have a lot more sample size and a lot more honors under their belt, than Jimmy G does. Aaron Rodgers has more playoff starts than Jimmy G does starts in general, and I'm sure Matt Ryan might even have more than Garoppolo does in regular starts. So, yeah, that's an interesting one that they decided to give Jimmy Garoppolo. Is it $135 million?
$137.5.
Okay.
So
I knew it was $27.5 this year.
He got paid, but they made that trade. They're paying a lot of money, but they had some of the most cap room, so they can afford it. And and now they have their guy. They don't have to go draft a Sam Darnold this year and then have him sit under C.J. Beathard or anyone for a couple years while they suffer and they groom him, kind of like what the Bengals did with John Kitna and Carson Palmer, or other teams have done in the past.
Yeah, well, the Chiefs did this year with Mahomes.
Yeah, with Mahomes.
And Kyle Shanahan's a brilliant mind, too, in the NFL. And it's kind of surprising he just now got a head coaching job. I mean, I know he's kind of bounced around, but he's had success offensively just whatever he's went. Even in Cleveland. I mean, I know that was difficult to do, but offensively, they weren't terrible.
It makes you wonder, because another one of those good examples of that is Mike Zimmer.
Yeah.
Or Bruce Arians, a couple of those guys. It's like, how did Mike Zimmer go this long without having a head coach job? Like, look what he did with the Cowboys at the same time that Sean Payton was there, too, on offense. Look what he did with the Bengals, and then he finally got a shot with Minnesota. And, you change a couple things with injuries, and there's a chance that he's in the playoffs 3 straight years.
I think the big problem with Zimmer was being a defensive mind. We've seen kind of that transition from teams wanting an offensive mind. I mean, because it's all about the quarterback now. And Mike he's a good head coach, but he's not necessarily a quarterback whisperer.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just the way it works. There's a lot of guys like that. Ray Horton was a great defense coordinator for a while with the Titans and the I think the Browns and the Cardinals, and got a lot of looks for head coaching jobs, but never got it. And that's why I find the hire of Matt Patricia really interesting.
Even more is the Vrabel hiring of Tennessee. That's another one where it's like, yeah, he had he just got promoted the previous year, and it's like, yeah, they maybe they lost some key players, but that Texans defense wasn't that impressive. So
no.
It also makes you wonder if they're just doing it because he did play under the Patriots for.
And I believe the Titans GM is a Patriots guy, if I remember correctly. John Robinson, I believe is his name.
Let me go check real fast.
And I think Vrabel's a really good coach. Don't get me wrong. We've had a small sample size with him, and he's had the luxury of playing for Bill Belichick. He coached under Urban Meyer. I think he knows I think he has an objective in mind, and I think he can accomplish things. And I was able to listen to one of his interviews on Golick and Wingo, actually, and he sounds like a really hands-on head coach. And like he said, we've got the NFL has the best farm system in professional sports. They pay their coaches $10 million a year. You got Nick Saban, you got Urban Meyer, you got Dabo Swinney, and those guys. And I think he's an intelligent guy that'll be able to get the Titans in a good situation. That wasn't a bad team.
Yeah. That's just a team. Honestly, that's a team like the Rams. They just need a offensive mind too. And even though they went defense for the coach, they did scoop up the Matt LaFleur.
It was the Rams quarterback coach.
No, the Rams offensive coordinator.
Oh,
actually.
Was he?
Yeah, he was the quarterback coach though with
was he with the Falcons?
With the Falcons. And so yeah, they got him, and he helped have like one of the best turnarounds we've ever seen for an offense.
And the thing with Vrabel too is, he's kind of a younger mind. I mean, I know he's probably early 40s, if that. He's not super old. He might not even be that old. Because I remember watching him play with the Patriots, and he played for the Chiefs for a year or two after Scott Pioli came there.
42.
Yeah, so you're kind of getting out of these older style coaches, and you're getting in these younger minds that have seen a lot more of today's game,
which is a lot different.
Yeah,
we're seeing these guys that like that Texans Seahawks game when it was let me go see what the score, but it was like 40. Both teams scored
44-41, maybe
something like that, where when Deshaun Watson just went off and established himself as a possible rookie of the year. But yeah, like they went off.
They scored 57 against the Titans, if I remember correctly. Houston did. So,
but he knows more of how to make a defense work today, which is good. Even if didn't always work the best, but he also lost J.J. Watt, who was
and Clowney was dinged up too,
and I think Cushing was
Merciless.
Yeah. So they had majority of their defensive stars were either banged up or out. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, the Patricia hiring too is another one. It's like he helped fix that leaky defense in New England this year, but like. Their defense for the last few years their
defense was not good when it needed to be.
Exactly. Like there'll be a few games when it'll get good here and there, but for the most part,
he shaved too. Do you see that?
Oh,
he doesn't even look like the same guy.
I just hope that
I saw the press conference. Normally he's got the red hoodie and the ball cap on backwards and the pencil in his ear. It did not look like Matt Patricia.
Well, he trimmed the beard at least.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I'm hoping for. I hope that now with the Lions, he just has the bright Honolulu blue pullover, the backwards blue hat, and then the pencil.
I want to see him rock out the Roger Goodell clown shirt again.
That would be amazing.
I don't think he'll ever do it. My question is with the pencil, what does he use the pencil for? Because those play sheets are laminated, so it doesn't work on the...
Maybe he just likes the feel of a pencil in his hat. I know that.
I guess I've never put a pencil in my hat and tried to see what it feels like.
Maybe he just got used to it back when he would write notes on them.
Maybe.
Who knows? Yeah, that was actually one of the things I saw on Twitter for a Super Bowl drinking game. It was do nothing because this can't happen or something like that. It made me laugh. It was one of my favorite parts.
At least go with a Sharpie or something.
Yeah.
Or a dry erase marker.
So yeah, we'll see what he did because he was an offensive lineman though too in college. So we'll see what happens. I'm not fully set on that hire either. Well, I could be surprised.
I don't think Detroit's defense was that good.
Yeah, and they're losing Ziggy Ansah probably, and he probably could have been the one that could kind of even if he's not a phenomenal defensive coordinator. He's smart enough, I think, that he could have helped him develop because that, raw talent-wise, Ziggy Ansah has some of the best in the league.
Yeah, it's just a matter of getting that talent to be on raw.
Because he hasn't played football for very long. He just picked it up.
A year before he got drafted?
Something like that, yeah.
So, I don't know. That'll be a really interesting hire. I don't think Detroit's got the weapons either, obviously.
Yeah.
They got Stafford and really...
They got who was it on defense that was picking up balls?
Darius Slay.
Yeah, they have big play Slay, and that's about it. That's so. Haloti Ngata is old. He's old, but that can be a good anchor at least to help.
Golden Tate's not a true number one.
Yeah.
Eric Ebron, he's decent.
Offensively, they're still in pretty good shape. They need to figure out running back.
Yeah, because they've just got a handful of guys really.
Yeah. So they need to figure out the running back situation, but Stafford has put up some pretty good numbers throwing to guys, throwing to Marvin Jones and Golden Tate, and they've had Anquan Bolden, and so we'll see. Another news. We actually got a few NFL news today.
Yeah.
I know last week you were talking about how one of the things you think the Chiefs should do is move on from Revis. And they actually are going to cut him, so that'll help save the Chiefs a lot more money too.
$4 million. So on top of the $16 million that they free up with Alex Smith, you cut another $4 million. So you have some kind of wiggle room to go out and get some more pieces to bolster that defense, and maybe tack up that offensive line as well. So maybe they're listening to the podcast last week. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they. We're pretty close to Kansas City, so I'm sure Andy, when he was enjoying his nice wings from
KFC probably.
Oh yeah, he was like, these kids are right. I'm gonna go, and I think, Revis was a nice veteran presence for the locker room, and maybe they're cutting him, and maybe they can figure out a restructure deal in the offseason because
there's probably gonna be a big market for him. And he wasn't bad, really. He did what they needed him to do.
Exactly.
Anyone that thought that he was going to come in and be Revis Island again was stupid. Because my thing was I didn't want him to get hurt, and I didn't want him to blow a bunch of big coverages. Really, he was just there to keep Philip Gaines off the field.
Yeah.
And he did a decent job at it.
Yeah, if they can get him for a lot less, that'd be nice to just be like, hey, you're going to be more of that role, that number 3 corner. You're going to come in every once in a while. Maybe Peters or Fuller, is that what?
Yes, Fuller, Kendall Fuller.
It needs a break, and just come in, just don't get burned by Amari Cooper or any of the other guys, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Let's move on to a little bit of college basketball too. So we do have the North Carolina Duke game tonight.
I'm excited for this one.
Oh yeah, it's not the same in the past years because they're both ranked, which is the only ranked game tonight, but. It definitely is not like the last few years where at least one team is vying for a 1 seed. So it's not looking like that'll happen for either of them, but it's still one of the best rivalries in all sports. So
yeah, sports in general, not just college basketball. I think it's the most notable college basketball rivalry. I don't think it's the best.
What's the best?
I think Xavier Cincinnati's, in terms of actual rivalry, I think it's the best.
Oh yeah, true. Those
two teams actually hate each other.
Oh yeah.
But Duke, North Carolina, as far as national spotlight and stuff. Oh yeah, that's absolutely the best. There isn't really much better than Duke, Carolina. That's almost like the Alabama Auburn of football, or the Yankees Red Sox.
Yeah, because it's one of those that, I honestly can't really think of another one of those marquee ones that the average fan would watch. Because that's one of those that I'm sure if we go look at the top regular season college basketball games in terms of numbers, that always is one of the top.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So who are you picking tonight?
I haven't been following either of them too much this year, so I don't fully know yet. I do know that North Carolina is the slight favorite because it's in Chapel Hill. I think I'm gonna go with the home team. It's always tough to go win in Chapel Hill, just like it is in Cameron. So I think I'm gonna go with North Carolina, but that's me just blindly throwing the darts to the dartboard.
Let's go Dukies. I have not been high on North Carolina this year. Duke just came off a loss to St. John's the other night, who now has the two best wins in college basketball this year.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not even a 500 team, and they have one conference win. But anyways, I like Duke in this game. I don't think Carolina is quite as good as they're ranked. I think they're a tournament team, but I don't think and we kind of saw us coming in. They lost Justin Jackson. Joel Berry was dinged up because he got mad playing video games like we all do.
Oh, yeah.
They just haven't been the same. I mean, Luke May, who came off the bench last year, has been their leading scorer. And Marvin Bagley's a stud for Duke. The dude's averaging a double-double. When Duke is on, they're the best team in the nation. The problem is you don't know when they're going to be on, and defensively they kind of lapse.
Yeah, so we'll see. We can see where it could be the upset. Like last year when they met in March, Duke was the 14 and North Carolina was the 6th ranked team, and Duke won by 10 points. So, it's more of a shot in the dark. I don't fully know who's going to win. Honestly, I just hope it's a good game again. That's always fun when both their teams are playing well. That's one of the better games to watch every year in college basketball.
Yeah, it's no fun if one of them isn't playing very well, because then you know the outcome coming in, which is rare that neither one of those teams is not playing well.
Yeah, we've had a few where one is significantly better than the other, but we haven't had it where it's like a Nebraska basketball playing a team like Wisconsin most years, where it's Nebraska's at the basement and then Wisconsin is the best team in the country.
Yeah, it's not Kansas State for a while.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Nebraska, though, Nebrasketball did get another win again, so now they are sitting at 18-8. All alone in 4th place with a 9-4 conference record, one game up on Michigan, and they also have the tiebreaker because they beat them. So this team, each week they keep surprising me because I'm expecting them to go and fold like a cheap suit, and they keep finding ways to win. I mean, I get it too. The Big Ten is way down this year.
And that's just kind of the cycle for Nebraska, and that is what it is. It doesn't fault them, or anything because the Big Ten's down. They're still 18-8. Yeah. I mean, they've done what they've had to do. They've won the games they've had to win, So you can't really fault them too much for that. I know they haven't really had a super quality win. Their win over Michigan is the biggest one. They did play a kind of a tough non-con schedule. They lost St. John's. That loss keeps looking better and better.
I mean, yeah, sure. St. John's has only won one game in the Big East.
They beat Duke and Villanova,
but that one game they beat was Villanova, and now they beat Duke. It's they could have beat Kansas, and they didn't let that slip away. But besides the bad loss to St. John's, and then because
by Michigan State.
Yeah, besides that, it's like they've lost to a couple bad teams too, like a UCF, but they're. After that loss to Michigan State, they've been competitive because since then they've lost 5 games. So 5 of their 8 games have come since the Michigan State loss, but it was 10 points to Creighton, 1 point to Kansas. So they all were relatively close, and so we'll see if they can make a tournament run because right now the season ended, they'd be the 4 seed, so that'll help them. That because they'd get the winner of the 5-12. Is that what we said?
Yeah. So probably my guess would be Michigan and
Iowa. So whoever wins that game, which both those were two of their more impressive wins in terms of points, and then we'll see what we can do there. Like they played Ohio State tough as well, so they can do that. I'm sure now with a second game under them, they can play Purdue and Michigan State tougher then too. But we'll see. If they win out the regular season, they beat Michigan or Iowa or whoever else below them, and then they get bounced by Purdue and it's close, then they're almost a sure lock. Then you almost have to be. Yeah,
the thing with Nebraska, you look at their 5 games left, they could win all 5 of them, but like you said, they almost have to. I mean, you can't afford to lose. Definitely like in Illinois. I know it'd be on the road, but as bad as Illinois has been in the Big Ten this year, you can't afford to lose that. And then you got to win a tournament game. You gotta go in and beat Michigan or whoever you get by that point. And if you lose to Purdue, like you said, as long as it's not bad, I mean, if you get beat by 50, you're going to have a really tough time telling them, because that'll be the last impression the committee has on you. But if you go out and you lose by 8 or 10, that's a good loss. So,
yeah, and honestly, you don't want to lose any of these games, but if I'm Nebrasketball and I have to lose one of these games, I want to lose to Penn State because right now they're 17-9, 7-6 in the Big Ten, because everyone else, those Indiana 6-7, Maryland's 5-8. What's what I say they have left? So they have Rutgers.
Rutgers is 2-11. Illinois is 2-9.
Yeah, so they need to win out. They need to not afford to lose, and if they have to lose, they have to lose to Penn State, which is such a bizarro thing to say. Is that did you think in the last couple of years, hey, for Nebraska to have a chance to make the tournament, they need to only lose to Penn State?
I wouldn't have thought that, a month ago.
I know, it's crazy because until Rutgers joined the Big Ten, those were the 2 worst teams in the Big Ten almost every year. Occasionally one of the other teams, Illinois.
Occasionally Iowa during the Todd Licklider years.
But they both have rebounded, and it's about time because honestly, if Tim Miles didn't get this team to the tournament, if Tim Miles doesn't get this team to the tournament this year, they're probably going to move on, especially if they would have had a worse season than this, obviously. But if they make the tournament, he's safe. But man, I don't know if they keep him, if they miss the tournament, if they have it right there and they just fold.
Am I maybe just kind of being cynical here and thinking that what's going to happen is they're going to make the tournament this year, they're probably going to go one and done. Then next year they're going to come back in with the same expectations they had a couple years ago when Tran Petaway was there.
Oh man!
And then they're going to totally fall apart, and then that'll be it. Am I too cynical for thinking that? I mean, I think this is a tournament team.
Oh yeah.
Or I think they have a case. I mean, I don't think this is a Final Four team or maybe even a Sweet 16 team. But I think this is a team that can get in the dance.
Yeah, they're one that they might, depending on the draw, they might be able to move on. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. I like them. I don't like them enough to. I'll make if they make it, I'll make a homer bracket on ESPN where they win it all because it's fun to do that. And I've only been able to do that once in my life. So
I did that one year I had 3 of the Iowa. I think I had 3 of the Iowa schools and then Creighton in the Final Four. I did a homer bracket.
Oh, that would have been fun.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of Creighton either, but that would have been fun to watch too.
Yeah. I did have you and I in the Final Four. Would have been that same year that Iowa was, I think, a 7 seed and Iowa State was a 3 seed and you and I was a 5 seed. And Iowa State got upset by UAB.
Oh, yep. I remember that because it wasn't that a couple years ago.
Yeah, it was 2015. I can't remember. Because Iowa beat Davis. They were a 7 seed. Iowa beat Davidson, and they lost to Gonzaga, which I figured that would happen. And I had Iowa State in the Elite Eight because I didn't trust Iowa State. But then you and I's bracket, I'll have to look it up. It was Virginia was the 1 seed, and Virginia's never been a good 1 seed, which is why this makes me think maybe this will be the year that they actually surprise everybody. But it was Virginia was the 1. I think Villanova was the 2. And then Louisville was the 4, and Northern Iowa was the 5. And I had Northern Iowa and Michigan State in the Final Four, so 5 versus 7. And I was close. It ended up being Louisville, Michigan State.
Because I think that was the same year that Maryland was a 3 seed, and if they hadn't dropped a couple games, they were looking like one of the better teams.
So in that one, you had Villanova was the 1, Virginia was the 2, Oklahoma the 3, Louisville the 4, Northern Iowa the 5.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I had Northern Iowa, Michigan State in the Elite 8.
I remember the 2. That was I wish I would have been on campus for that because I just would have wanted to have seen Stephen Chappell's reaction because, he's a big UAB everything fan.
Yeah, and I watched that game from my bedroom, and I lived with my grandma at the time, and my grandma always filled out a college basketball bracket, but I had no idea what in the world was going on, ever. So she'd always pick all the Iowa teams to go really far, and then like Creighton, and if Nebraska was playing, and like all the local teams. And I think she had Iowa State winning it all that year. And she was not happy after that.
I bet.
I was like, Grandma, thanks for your money, but your bracket's busted.
That was like when Mizzou looked like the best team in the country a few years ago. It was
2012.
Yeah, when they were the 2 seed, they got Duke
by Hampton,
and Duke got beat the same day. I had Mizzou winning it all.
Or no, they got beat by Norfolk State. Iowa State got beat by Hampton. I had Duke in the Elite 8. I didn't trust Mizzou. I had Mizzou in like the Sweet 16. I had a buddy that had Duke going all the way.
Yeah, my bracket was just blown up there.
Well, you think about a couple years ago, too, when Michigan State was the 2 seed, and it looked like they should have been a 1 seed probably. And they got upset by Middle Tennessee State. And I had them going to the Elite 8. And a lot of people that I was in a bracket contest with had them going to the national title game and winning this. So I was licking my chops after that.
Oh, yeah.
But this is such tough. I mean, if you had to fill out a bracket today, who would you pick?
Man, I don't know because Virginia's looking good, Purdue's looking good. Like honestly, I think I would be stuck between Virginia and Purdue right now, and because it's like I still like Villanova too, but I don't. It also depends on with these teams how they get the draw of the bracket. But I think those 3 have the best chance as long as they don't have to play like each other. I think those 3 are the best teams.
Yeah, I'd be stuck between Villanova and Purdue just because I've been duped by Virginia too many times to trust them. If Duke clicks, I think they could be dangerous come tournament time. I don't know why, and I hate to admit this in case Sean Nino's listening, but this just feels like a year that Kansas could sneak up on some people.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because everyone will pick because they'll get a poll of a UNI like team, some random mid-major that's a good team, and then everyone's gonna jump on. Oh well, Kansas is gonna lose to this team, and then they go on and because I did a couple years ago they go to the Elite 8 or Final 4. They had a run a couple years ago, and I had them losing in the first round because it's like I'm not.
In 2012, they went to the national title game, and I think I had them losing like the Sweet 16.
But I think the last couple did they go for the last couple years and just
last year they went to the Elite 8.
I think last year
and they were a 1 seed.
I think last year I had them losing in the second round.
I know 2 years ago when they were the number 1 seed in the nation, and they got beat by Nova in the Elite 8. I had them losing to UConn in the second round. So they're just such a weird team. This could be a Kansas team that no one – same with Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky's a 5 seed right now, according to bracketology. Yeah. You look at bracketology, the 1 seeds of the season starter today would be Virginia, Villanova, Xavier, Purdue. The 2 seeds would be Kansas, Duke, Cincinnati, Michigan State.
Ooh, I know they're the 16 seed, and they're not the same as they were, but Florida Gulf Coast right now is the 16 seed in the West. Maybe that could be the first.
It's gonna happen one of these days.
And I feel like I have not watched. The last time I watched Florida Gulf Coast was the year after their tournament run. They played Nebraska, and then Nebraska just blew them out of the water with their 3-pointers and dunks. It was the first game in Pinnacle Bank Arena, but yeah, I wonder if this could be the year that could happen.
It's gonna happen one of these years. I mean, I know it hasn't yet. But at some point, and I think, you look at bracketology right now, and granted we're only at February 8th, I think the right formula would be a team that has never been a 1 seed and comes in and doesn't know how to – the Blue Bloods, I'd be shocked if a North Carolina or a Kentucky –
or even a Kansas.
Or a Kansas drops to a 16 seed. But a team like a Xavier or a Cincinnati or a Purdue – someone like that, Auburn, I know they're not going to be a 1 seed, but if they were, a team like that – they're vulnerable, and they've never been there. Yet alone, you look at a team like Auburn, they've never been in the tournament.
Yeah.
Yet alone, is the 1 seed. So, I don't know. I'm ready for March Madness now that football season's kind of over.
Now that that's done, and we have the long, sad months. Yeah. Man, another one I need to go and watch them because, right now they're projected 6th seed, but Wichita State's another one to obviously watch out for,
Yeah.
because now they're in a lot tougher conference, and so they're suffering because they've had a few more losses than they usually would. But now we can see that's another team that always plays well in the tournament. They just are a solid team, so we could see what happens there too. But yeah, now that football's completely done, I can move on to focusing on college basketball for a bit. And now also some NBA stuff too, because there were some trades. But
yeah, just not my thing.
But I'm gonna definitely go into the college basketball world now again, since NFL and college are all done. And we just have the draft still too. But
yeah.
But moving on to actually college football. So the Nebraska spring game tickets went on sale, I believe, yesterday.
Well, they were on, so they're not anymore, but they were on sale.
Yeah, because they sold out, which is the first time they've ever sold out for a spring game, which is crazy. Like a glorified practice sells out. Pelini's first year, they did sell about 80,000, which wasn't full, but like it was close. There was only a few thousand seats left, so that's the frost advisory continues with Nebraska, but you'd think Husker fans would be very happy about the sellout. It's like, we just...
Yeah, and when I saw that they sold out, I was like, man, I'm not a Nebraska fan at all. Growing up in Iowa and growing up an Iowa fan, but I was like, that's kind of cool. When Iowa holds their spring game at Valley West Des Moines High School and gets, maybe 1,000 people there, and Nebraska can sell theirs out. And then as I kind of read into more before the podcast about the way that worked, I didn't think it was as cool.
Yeah, so apparently they gave season ticket holders first right of tickets, which I am perfectly fine with doing that, because it's like, okay, you're paying thousands of dollars in donations to get your season tickets, in donations in quotes, but you're paying that money to get your seats. So, if you want to go to the glorified practice and you want to have a first shot over someone like even you as an Iowa fan, it's like, let's just go watch and see what Frost can do. Cool. But apparently the max that they could get for tickets was 20.
It's an awful lot for a season ticket holder.
And at $10 a pop, you get 20, $200. You go and you keep 3 of them, put the other 17 on StubHub for $50 a piece, making a lot of money.
And people will buy them too if they want to go that bad. I mean, because you think about it, if you sell 17 tickets for $50, that's $850. If you paid, $170 for those tickets, you just made almost $700 because you're a season ticket holder. And I'm with you. I agree. They're spending thousands of dollars or whatever it is they're spending to get their tickets, and they should have first rights to those. I think back to 2 years ago, the year after the Royals won the World Series, there was a really big demand for the opening night tickets because they were going to unleash the World Series banner and everything. And what the Royals did is basically they did a raffle where all the season ticket holders got first rights for their tickets, the ones that they had. Mm-hmm. And then they did a raffle basically where everyone had to register, and they just randomly drew. And then you got if you ended up being drawn, you had the option during this frame from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on this certain day to buy tickets, and you could buy 2 of them.
Yeah.
And my stepdad was lucky enough. I didn't know he'd signed up for it, but he had signed up for it and was able to get us 2 tickets to the opening night game. But it wasn't like we went and bought 20 of them, and they were more than $10.
Yeah.
But I mean that's
it was a regular season game. But yeah, so hopefully in the future they can fix. I mean, no matter what, other than even if they win a national championship in these next couple of years, they're not going to have a spring game sell like this again, probably until another hot commodity coach comes in, because even Riley didn't sell out. Pelini's got close to selling out. Technically, one of the ones under Callahan sold out because it was when they did the north end zone renovation, so they only had 50,000 seats available. But yeah, I don't think we'll ever have this issue happen again unless they purposely limit the seats. But they need to definitely limit the ticket sales if they're doing this again, because even if it doesn't sell out, it's just really crappy to go and be like, oh, I'm gonna go get tickets for the spring game, and you only have the upper nosebleed of the end zones because someone went and bought 2 people went and bought 20 tickets apiece. And
I mean, if you're a season ticket holder and you have 20 tickets,
That's fine.
Fine. If it's you and your wife and your kids and then, another couple and whatever, however that works, fine. You pay for 20 tickets on a regular basis. That's fine. But if it's just you as a season ticket holder, and you're one person.
Ooh, so tickets did go down now. You can get in Section 14 in the South End Zone, which is like right next to the student section in a regular game, or Section 605, which is right by my dad's tickets up in the East. Those are now $35 on StubHub.
Still a little bit more than 10.
Yeah. So it's just crazy that they there are a handful of tickets over $300. The most expensive one I can find on StubHub right now is $500 to go to a practice. Now that one is a club level seat, so it's a sideline pass, which it's still dumb to pay $500 for practice, but at least that one makes a little more sense. But you can go on the lower, you can go into Section 25, which would put you on about the 35-yard line in the East End Zone. I mean, the east side of the stadium, and it's going to cost you $4.99 for a practice.
Yeah, I don't know what the Iowa spring game tickets will cost, but I'm guessing they won't be that much.
I love that there's a lot of support for this, and everyone's excited, but at the same time, it's come on, guys, because there were a few tweets. Actually, I went and retweeted something before I knew about this. When I just thought people were just mad that season ticket holders got first dibs, and that's why it sold out. There's think about those families that they have smaller children. So going through a whole college game when you're paying $50, because I think face value tickets went up in price, and they're about $60 for some games, and then
that sounds about right. I know I bought when I went to the Nebraska game. It would have been Riley's first year. And we were upper level, and I think our tickets were somewhere around $90, which I was fine with.
Oh yeah,
I was just paying for my ticket, and my friend bought his. It wasn't like I was taking, my girlfriend or someone, and then 3 or 4 other people, so it didn't add up as much.
Yeah, so I have 2 older brothers, and so let's say this situation where it's when my brothers are 10, 8. And then I'm 6. If you have young kids, a football game's expensive because of the food.
Mm-hmm.
Even in Nebraska, they're pretty cheap compared to some of these other places.
A lot of college play. I've been to Memorial Stadium. I've been to Jack Trice. I've been to Kinnick, and all of them are pretty reasonable.
Yeah, because you can go. I almost always get a slice of Valentino's pizza because that's the best place to get Valentino's pizza ever. Else, it's not that good. But you can get a slice of Valentino's pizza for $4, a 20-ounce Pepsi product for $3. So you spend $7 to get that. You go to Arrowhead and you do the same thing. It's going to be $13, $14.
Well, that's what I love about when I went to Kinnick. You can get a thing of popcorn, a decent-sized thing of popcorn for $4 or $5. And a bottle of water, I think, was maybe $3. Which I'll pay $3.50 for a bottle of water, in that situation because I need something to hydrate. But you go to Arrowhead, man, I've been there and it's nothing to spend $20, $25 easily.
Just on yourself,
yeah. Well, that's my girlfriend and I go to a lot of Royals games during the summer. It's fun to get away. Tickets are cheap. Most of the time, we spend more money at the concession stand than we do on our tickets because I can find tickets for $10, $15 a piece. But then we go and even something as simple as going pork, I always go for the pork nachos.
Yeah.
By the time you have pork nachos in a water, man, that's $18. And plus her French fries in a water is another $15.
Yeah, that's why a lot of times, if I'm going somewhere, I look for the chicken basket because that's usually anywhere between $7 to $11, and then you get 3 or 4 strips. You get a good helping of fries usually, and then I go get the $4 to $6 drink.
I did try the breakfast dog at Kaufman, which was actually pretty good. It was $9 for a foot-long hot dog with egg and cheese on it. I do recommend that.
And then if you're ever at the College World Series, the Cuban dog, it'll.
That's one I've not tried.
That was a really good one. But the Falcons actually they have cheap concessions, and my girlfriend and I went to the Week 17 Falcons-Panthers game, and that was really nice because I got 2 hot dogs a souvenir cup, and my girlfriend got a bacon cheeseburger, and then we got some popcorn later, and we spent $17.
That would have been like $40 at any other stadium.
And it was a smaller popcorn, like the little box, but like still, you go, that's expensive for everything. And the nice thing too is their fountain drinks, you can fill it up too. So I spent a little extra to get the Falcons cup, which was dumb because it's the Falcons, and neither my girlfriend and I like the Falcons, but I have the Falcons cup now with my other collection, and I spent like $4 on it, and I was able to refill it a couple times.
And I'm surprised we haven't seen more teams go to that model.
I think we will.
Was it $5 beers?
Something like that. It was, it was like $5 for the
$2 hot dogs.
$2 hot dogs, $2 popcorn.
Yeah. And I get, you can't mark down beer prices probably to what you would as a bar because as far as, legality concerns and stuff, you'd get people that overindulge. But, you get people who do it in the parking lot anyways.
Oh, yeah.
And someone like myself who's a casual beer drinking guy, if I go to a game, most of the time I have to drive anyways, I might have 1 or 2 beers there, But if I'm paying $11 for one, it's like, man, I don't really... I'm going to drink that one, and it's going to last me 4 innings of a game.
Yeah, I think I have only gotten a beer at one sporting event because it's the same thing. It's I'm not going to go spend $10+ just to go get a 12-ounce Coors Light, and it's even though I would rather have Coors Light than some of the other light beers, I'm not going to go do that just because it's I can just go instead spend half that money. Yeah, sure, I'm going to get a Mountain Dew or a Coke and feel like a kid, but I would rather drink
cheaper
one of those because it's cheaper, and then too also I don't have to drink it too fast because when it gets warm, it's not as gross tasting.
Yeah, it's you think they would find a better model for that. I know, when Shawnee and I went to a couple of Royals games this past summer, and we got in the habit of instead of eating at the stadium, we would just eat on the way home. Because realistically, you were getting probably what I thought was better food.
Yeah.
And not really for any, maybe cheaper. We'd stop at IHOP or Denny's, something that's open at 11:30 at night in St. Joe, and you're paying just the same as what you would to get a hot dog and a bottle of water, but instead you were getting an omelet with hash browns and stuff. So I wish they would do something to change that.
So we'll see, because I bet the Falcons had a lot of success with this. I would not be surprised if we see a few more of these teams announce cutbacks. So you could still go and get the super expensive, the pork nacho stuff, the super fancy, foot long hot dogs that have charcuterie meat and fine wine sauce on it. That'd still be $12 for your hot dog, but you can your typical regular stadium fare food that you can get at every stadium ever was significantly cheaper.
My favorite's at Bearcat Stadium. You can get a popcorn. I'm a sucker for popcorn.
Oh, yeah.
I could eat a box of popcorn a day, and I can get a nice box of popcorn and a bottle of water, and I think it's $4.50.
Yeah, and that's what you get to
I love that.
At Nebraska. It's that box style more where so you're paying $2 and it's a good price for that popcorn you get. But yeah, definitely. Moving on though, let's move on to the Super Bowl since that was this last weekend. And when Tide was not letting us know it was a Tide ad, we had actually a pretty good game too. So that was good.
Yeah, the commercials weren't as good.
The Tide commercials were
funny.
By far my favorite.
Eli Manning OBJ one was funny.
That was a good one too. But yeah, there was there were some ones that's just what am I watching? I was kind of bummed because the Danny DeVito ads leading up to the Super Bowl when he just was moving around in the melted chocolate. I was like, this is going to be one of the weirdest commercials ever. And it still was weird because he turned into...
Well, Danny DeVito in general just kind of...
But, yeah, I was bummed with that. I was not surprised. I was not a big fan of the Dilly Dilly Bud Light commercials. They were good.
I've never been a fan of them, but I wasn't surprised at that. I set the over-under at 2.5, and I was close.
Yeah.
It ended up being 3. The Peter Dinklage, Morgan Freeman.
That was another good one.
The Doritos Mountain Dew one was good. I'm going to sound kind of like a hater here, but I wasn't a giant fan of the Siri losing her voice one.
I don't even think I saw that one. I don't remember that one.
I kind of came in on it. I was at a Super Bowl party with my girlfriend's boss and some of his friends and stuff, and I went out during the commercials, because commercials for me are, okay, go grab another beer, go to the bathroom, whatever. So I went up, got some more food, and I came in kind of on like the middle of that commercial. So I didn't really know what was going on, and I just wasn't a big fan of it.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I'll have to go watch it after this, but yeah, definitely the ones that stuck out to me the most was just the Tide one, just because like there was all those times when they did other stuff, like they had the guy from the Old Spice commercials.
Those were funny.
They had the Mr. Clean dancing and all this and that.
Didn't they have like an insurance one too?
Mm-hmm. And it was like, how can you know it's a Tide ad? And then I haven't watched it yet, and I heard it actually was really bad. So that's kind of a bummer. But the ad for the new Cloverfield, that was crazy because that was supposed to come out in like April, and they're just like, hey, it's on Netflix after the game tonight, and just like, whoa. But
my favorite's the one that didn't air.
Which one was that?
You know, the black screen.
Oh yeah, jeez, man. Think about that.
Yeah,
$5 million that just got.
The NBC came out and said that it wasn't. There wasn't a commercial that misfired, but it was like a 20. I think we watched it today in one of my classes, and I think it was like a 25-second gap. And what's funny is I was at a Super Bowl party, like I said, and I'm sitting there, and I was with some people that don't particularly. They're not huge football fans like I am. I mean, they casually watch, and you know I've seen that happen before watching games. And the screen goes black, and someone goes, "What happened?" And I said, "Oh, you know, they technical difficulties." And they're like, "Well, I don't think the TV's working. I think the TV's broken." I was like, "No." I was like, "NBC messed something up." I was like, "Wait for it." And then it came back on, and they're like, "I don't know, like maybe we should check something on the TV." And then like I'm scrolling through Twitter as I always do when I'm watching games, and everyone's commenting. And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, no, it wasn't. Your TV wasn't broken."
Yeah, because at first I was watching my girlfriend's house too, because he at my girlfriend's brother's house, he has a projector, and so we just the projector just crapped out real fast. But then it was like, oh wait, no, the guide's still there, so we switched it to ABC, and whatever was on. Getting no viewers was on, and then we went back to it, and then it was still black, and then a couple of seconds later, they came back.
Yeah.
But, man, yeah, like, that's millions of dollars just got thrown away right there.
The game was good, too.
Yeah, I'm glad that we got another good game, especially because the Patriots lost. But, you know, because, like, last year's, it was a good game in the second half. I mean, I guess if you like watching the Patriots get blown out, that was good, too. But in terms of, like, a good football game to watch,
wire to wire, really.
Yeah,
I mean, it was it told a compelling story.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, you look at the whole game. The Eagles came out and they were clicking right away, and the Patriots just kept finding a way to keep themselves in it.
Yep. And then it looks like the Patriots were about to take over, and it was like, oh, here we go. Yeah, they're about to run away with it again. And then they had that strip sack on Brady, and then the memes began, and then it was all over. And
yeah, what a game! I mean, from top to bottom. And I left, you know, when I left the Super Bowl party that night that I was at, and I went home and I sat down. It's rare for a game that I don't have any emotional investment in to keep me thinking past the game being over. Most time, when a game like that gets over, I watch the presentation, whatever, and I go to bed.
Yeah.
You know, but I laid there and I was thinking about, you know, so many different things. You know, Nick Foles, Doug Peterson, you know, Frank Reich. Is this the end of an era? You know, in the cojones that Peterson had. I mean, I'm going to say something I think is very unpopular, but I think Belichick got out coached.
Yeah.
You know, you look at the way Philadelphia beat New England is the same way New England beat teams forever. You know, Philadelphia most of the game did not put pressure on Brady for the majority of the game, but they did when it matters most. New England's really good at doing that. Their defense will play terrible for 3.5 quarters, and then all of a sudden clamp down when it matters.
Yep.
Corey Clement had 4 catches for 100 yards coming out of the backfield. You know, they used
James White did that
last year. You know, both Wisconsin running backs. I mean, they kind of beat the Patriots at their own game.
Yeah, and which is crazy because the big thing I was saying last week was if they're going to beat the Patriots, they have to get pressure early and a lot, and they need to be aggressive. And they were aggressive with their play calling on offense, but yeah, they kind of let New England kind of do their own thing at the start of the game. I mean, Brady had one of the greatest games ever that we've ever seen by a team to lose.
Statistically,
yes.
You know, and I wasn't fooled by the numbers because, you know, I know he threw for like 505 yards, but you look at some of those passes, you or I could have. I mean, they were playing such a weird defensive scheme.
Yeah.
that you or I could have hit Chris Hogan or Gronk open.
Well, I mean, Chris Hogan is 7'11" too, because he's always open.
Yeah, I mean, he had a game.
Oh yeah, that was my favorite thing is I didn't put 2 and 2 together until the start of this season because I didn't watch the Patriots much last year before they came back in the Super Bowl. That was the same Chris Hogan from Hard Knocks, who was like one of my favorite parts.
Was he with the Bills for a while?
Yeah, because he was the Dolphins and the Bills. So now he just needs to go to the Jets, and he's done the whole
AFC East.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a good game, and it was a bummer to see it in Minneapolis and not be the Vikings. And so that was another reason why I thought of it after too. Just was like, man, what would the Vikings have done if they would have made it? But yeah, from start to finish, it was a good game, which we haven't had one of those in a while, really.
Probably not since the Steelers-Cardinals game.
Yeah,
I mean, think about it.
Because the closest one besides that, Seattle and New England. But like even at that point too, Seattle was up by a couple touchdowns for a while too, and then you had the other the Seattle-Denver Super Bowl.
That game I thought was great, but that's just because I'm a Chiefs fan, and anytime Denver can lose like that, I'm fine with it. But yeah, the second Giants-Patriots game was a weird game. It was a good game.
Same with Denver-Carolina. Another one. It's like it was. It just was a weird.
It was close enough to keep you interested,
but it was kind of boring.
Yeah, it wasn't very good. Packers Steelers was the same way.
Yeah, it was close game, but it was just like it was forgettable.
The Ravens 49ers one was a lot like the one we saw last year with the Patriots Falcons, where San Francisco was down by a big margin, except they couldn't quite complete the comeback. They came close, but they couldn't quite do it. So yeah, I think that's the best Super Bowl that we've seen easily in the last 10 years. I like offense. I like when teams can score points. I like the guts that Peterson had on certain situations. I like
fourth and goal, doing the little trick play.
And what's great, I think the greatest part about that is that the drive before New England ran the same thing, it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And that was almost kind of like a middle finger to New England of like, we'll show you how it's done.
That was so much fun on Twitter because I had a tweet, and other people did too, about how Nick Foles is the GOAT at quarterback.
I think I had a tweet like that too.
And that was a lot of fun, but.
To me, the real gutsy one is towards the end of the fourth quarter, that final drive when they have it, 4th and 2, and they decide to go for it. I mean, because I get where they're coming from with this, because if you're Doug Peterson in that situation with 4.5, 5 minutes to go, if you punt there, the way New England's offense has been driving down the field, there's a very good chance either A, you're not going to get the ball back, or B, you're going to get the ball back down 8 with a minute to go and no timeouts. So that was kind of the game, and it worked. I mean, we still know what a catch is, but
yeah, so luckily they're going to try to fix that. Yeah. But like I think like in my definition of a catch, that was the good call.
That one was the first one with Corey Clement. I think you can make the argument that it wasn't. Mm-hmm. The ball moved a lot as he was coming down.
Yeah.
But like the Ertz one, the dude caught up a 6,
and then he
took
ran
4 steps.
Yeah.
It was even different than the Jesse James one. Where James caught it as he was falling down and reaching out.
Yeah.
And it's even different than the Dez one. Dez caught it, was coming down, and reached out.
And then he reached out. But I think that when either your body is down in the different ways you're down, like your knee, your butt, your elbow, or when you break the plane and like you have somewhat of control over the ball, then it should be done. Because we saw that, like, the one I've been bringing up the most when I tell people about it is, because it didn't get much pub. If you go watch the Vikings-Panthers game from this year, Adam Thielen caught a touchdown that got overturned, even though he had, I think, elbow, knee down, and then the ball came out. He was in the end zone. Like, he already took 2 steps and all this. Like, he caught the ball, and he caught the ball, he secured it, was down. And if he was not in the end zone, he would have been down, and then the ball popped up, and they overturned it. And like that, like in my mind, that was a catch. And yeah, sure, biased because I'm a Vikings fan, but if that would have been any other team, I would have said that was a catch too.
Yeah, it's
just a mess.
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully they get it figured out. I'm going to end the Super Bowl segment real quick by saying that for all these Patriots fans that have been complaining about the officiating in the Super Bowl, I'm not going to say it was great. Boo-hoo.
Yeah, go
cry into your 5 Lombardi trophies. Exactly. This is a team whose dynasty was started on a call that has not been used before or since.
Yeah.
It's hard to feel sorry for you.
I know. It's like I get it that you can be bummed about the loss because it sucks losing Super Bowl, and now your team has lost. Your franchise has now lost 5 Super Bowls and 3 under your dynasty, and that sucks. But you
won 5.
You may have the most losses by any team ever in Super Bowl. You also are tied for the second most wins.
How many do the Vikings have?
0. The Vikings are 0-4. The Chiefs are 1-1.
The Chiefs have 1, but that was 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Don't expect me to don't expect me to feel sorry for the Patriots because they had one game where a couple of questionable calls might have cost them a Super Bowl.
Brady shouldn't have fumbled the ball too.
A couple of bad pass interference calls and no holding calls, and they're not even in the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
So.
A possible what is a catch play happens. They're not the 1 seed.
Yeah. So then you're not. I mean,
there's a chance they're not even hosting. They're not even in the AFC.
Jacksonville's in the Super Bowl in that case, probably. I mean,
so we'll see. Kind of moving on from the Super Bowl, but before we wrap up with some NFL stuff. So moving on into the offseason, we still have a lot of free agent stuff, a lot of question marks. But do you see a repeat next year of New England, Philly, or do you see another team?
I think Philly will be a playoff team next year. I think we'll see a letback. The AFC's open, man. I don't know. I think this might be kind of the downward spiral of the Patriots. I mean, obviously they're not going to go like 7-9 next year or anything ludicrous. But there's some team, the Jaguars, depending on what they do at quarterback. The AFC's open. Who knows what the situation with Big Ben. I know he's coming back. Houston, if they can stay healthy. If Patrick Mahomes is the real deal, we've seen rookie quarterbacks come in before and have really good success, like Kaepernick and Ben Roethlisberger and guys like that. And Russell Wilson. So don't count them out. Oakland will be better with Gruden. The Chargers were a young team that got better as the season went on. Man, the AFC. I'm gonna say Patriots next year in the Super Bowl for no other reason than there's no one else that really I can stick my neck out on. But I might say Saints. In the NFC, you got Drew Brees, who's kind of on that last couple of years. They had a lot of young talent that really showed this year. They're going to be hungry. This is a team that feels like that should have been them playing the NFC Championship game.
Yeah. So, I would agree. Right now, if I had to think of like 3 teams on both conferences, I am New England, Jacksonville, and Pittsburgh are the 3 that I feel most comfortable with saying that I can see them in the Super Bowl. Like right now, obviously we have off-season stuff that'll change, and then in the NFC, Philly, New Orleans, and then asterisk next to it, Minnesota. If that all depends on the quarterback situation and how whichever one they keep is doing, because they have all the other pieces. But we'll see. But I would not be surprised if we got a repeat, which would be the first time we've had both teams repeat in the Super Bowl. I think since Dallas and Buffalo.
Yes. Yeah.
Because we've had obviously teams repeat, but we haven't had a matchup repeat.
I think that's the only one too there's ever been of repeat Super Bowl. I mean, as far as back-to-back years, I'd have to go back and actually look, but I'm almost certain that it has been. Because you go back even the Cowboys-Steelers days, they never met back-to-back.
Yeah, and or like the Dolphins when they had their run, they played like Dallas and like Washington and stuff like that. So
Pittsburgh or Minnesota.
Yeah, so so I think that'd be the second time it would happen. So we can see, but I would not be surprised if we do have a repeat next year down in Atlanta. But also we don't know. The NFL is weird. We could, Atlanta was the only NFC team to make the playoffs last year and this year.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting.
But I think we are going to wrap it up with this. You got anything else you want to throw in real fast?
No. I got nothing else. A great NFL season. Lots of ups and downs. My favorite part was all the surprises.
Oh, yeah.
When you look at like you mentioned, the NFC playoff teams you had this year. Atlanta, I kind of thought that one. Philadelphia didn't overly surprise me. Carolina didn't overly surprise me. Minnesota did just because of their quarterback situation.
The Rams
really surprised me. Seattle not making it surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the AFC, Chiefs didn't surprise me. New England didn't surprise me. Pittsburgh didn't surprise me. Jacksonville did just in the way they played.
Yeah.
Tennessee, Yeah.
It's more surprised you that they didn't play as good as you would have thought.
Buffalo surprised me.
That especially after the Peterman debacle. Oh boy.
Yeah, this was an interesting year in the NFL. Maybe be interested to what 2018 brings.
Yeah, and the all. I wonder how the all IR team would have done if they would have played in the Super Bowl.
15-1.
Yeah, but I think my favorites, which will be one of my favorite moments for a long time, will still be Diggs's.
Yeah, and it has to be. I mean, as a Vikings fan, I'm sure.
Especially just because, the Ringer had an article about it. It's like the Vikings were on the wrong side of all of those crazy playoff, once in a lifetime victories. The first Hail Mary, the first regular season, perfect kicker in the regular season to miss a chip shot field goal. The Blair Walsh, all these moments where they're on the wrong side of it, and then they were finally on the right side of it, and didn't obviously the next week.
Does that mean the Chiefs are going to be on the right side of it in the future? I mean, they've been right there with the Vikings as far as those situations.
True.
Lynn Elliott, the no punt game, the 38-10 game, the offensive holding game, the forward progress game. So maybe next year you'll have the Kansas City Miracle.
Yeah, maybe, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, definitely Stephon Diggs will be one of my favorite moments, probably for the rest of my life, honestly, with the Vikings. Other than them winning the Super Bowl, that'll be where I have peaked as a fan. But we're going to wrap it up here on the X106 podcast. Once again, it was Luke Peterson and